All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of MatChat. We are brought to you by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com. We are brought to you by Pure and Clean Sports and by Jocko Fuels and Resolite. There's a very cool podcast for us today. We are in Huff Hall, historic Huff Hall, with the head coach from the University of Illinois, Jeremy Hunter, and the head coach of the Illinois RTC, the international man of mystery, Bryan Medlin. Every time I see Medlin, it's beard, no beard, glasses, no glasses.
Keep them guessing.
But always the Tivas, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, guys, thanks for jumping on with me today, and thanks for the invite to the golf tournament. We're going to take a few divots home with us tomorrow.
It'll be a fun time. A lot of bad golf, but a lot of fun.
A lot of good people and bad golf, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So a lot to get into. I guess what I'd like to start with, Jeremy, you're now the new head coach. I don't really want to get into all the stuff of how that happened. You know, somebody else can cover that. They want to talk about that. But what I would like to talk about is what's the transition been like for you? Because talking to people like Medlin and other people around the country, you loved being an assistant coach. You loved wrestling with the guys. You loved sort of being this guy that was awesome, but didn't mind not having the limelight. And now you're the guy that's going to have to stand in front of everybody tomorrow and talk. You're the head coach. You're the guy that's at the top of the ledger. What's that been like for you emotionally and mentally?
Yeah, it's been fun. You know, the big thing was my roles changed now. You know, now I got to go out and meet with people and sell the program and not just be up here wrestling with guys all the time. So, but I still love doing that. I'm going to continue doing that. But like I said, just the roles have changed a little bit, and I'm excited about the opportunity.
O'Connor.
He's got a black eye right now. Let's be clear. He has not given up wrestling. He is 40-some high. I won't say how high. But
No, somebody said you have a
birthday,
a significant birthday coming up soon.
I'll be 49 this year.
Okay.
Not 50.
Still scrapping.
I'm still the oldest person here by a mile. So, well, yeah, O'Connor said you're actually still stealing souls out in the room on a regular basis.
Yeah, I like I said, that's the part I really enjoyed. And I've done it for a long time. The last 20 plus years as being an assistant and stuff. Just now the roles have changed. So the situation has changed, and I'm looking forward to that and just continue to build this program. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm sure. How important is it for you as a guy that did that, knowing, hey, if I bring in these younger assistants, they have to be able to wrestle and they have to be able to win. And then they have to be able to show like, hey, David, here's how Austin beat you. Here's what you're doing wrong. Here's what he did right. This is what you can add. Like, you're obviously going to be a great guy to break that down because you were just in that role, 5 minutes ago, basically.
Yeah, no, I think it's huge to have, these guys wrestle with our guys, because we have a lot of great guys that they're going to do a lot of great things, but we need to have guys that are going to challenge them every single day. And that's what these older guys do. Just the RTC guys, our assistant coaches, they challenge them every day, put them in situations that they're going to be in matches and stuff. It's just good to have those type guys in the room.
Yeah, for sure. Bryan, you and I get to talk fairly regularly, and one of the things I feel like a lot of programs are just teaching what everybody else is doing. Like, you see something and then you try to catch up to it. And I would say this behind your back, so I'm going to say it to your face. You seem like one of the guys that are going out and finding technique. Like, I had somebody go, Medlin can find any match in the world on the dark web, and only the PG stuff. Okay?
Yeah.
But you can find any match, and I mean this as a massive compliment, but I think you're a nerd like all of us. Like, you'll sit there and watch it to death and figure out. We were at the SIU tournament. You were showing me why split leg is better, like on this, before I went on the air.
Yeah.
How much do you enjoy doing that stuff? And how much, as the RTC guy, how much is that a part of your job?
As an enjoyment, it's everything I love about wrestling. I love the sport. But what challenges me is it's like anything else I've kind of come across. Like, once you're good at something, you feel like you're not as good as you thought you were. So you see better ways to do things, and traveling and being able to kind of watch people do differently. You could, sometimes it's reinforcing. It's like, hey, we're doing it right here. But there's other ways to say things. Sometimes your voice gets lost if you're just kind of saying the same thing over and over, stay above the knee, pressure in. But if you're constantly looking for new ways to kind of develop, you stay ahead of that curve because you're on the curve. You're not waiting for the curve to happen and then going and seeing what happened after that, and I think there's a lot of great coaches in America. I think I was just having this debate with somebody at Fargo, which was crazy, is like, but it can get too much. Like this guy was like, and he's a big internet coach, he's on Instagram a lot. I won't say his name, but he was like, I don't think you should do stance of motion at all. And I thought about it at first. I was like, okay, don't let your just gut instinct pop out here and be like, you're crazy. So I thought about it for like the whole day. And then I was like, you know what, that's wrong. Like, I think there's always a place for stance of motion. I think there's, but it's just a way that, I think there's a new era of coaches that are coming that are just not taking the status quo for whatever reason. It's just maybe the part of America we're in, but they're looking for different ways to do it. And that's exciting because I want wrestling to continue to grow. I think there's something to be said of like, we could sit and do the same thing. And it's just who does it harder. I think if you can stay on that curve and you can look for the better ways, you're giving your guys a big advantage. So, that's always exciting because I'll get so excited. Like at 6 o'clock, I'll run across something on the internet that just kind of like makes my, tinglies go off. And I'm like, start getting on my phone. I write down a bunch of stuff and I'll come to practice and I'll be like, hey, Hunter, let's try it. What about this? And I always run it by him because he's the voice of reason.
Sure.
I can't say every idea I've ever had is good. So he could tell me like, hey, that doesn't sound good. If we could do it another way. But there's been stuff that we've done and it's like, okay, I think that this could actually move the needle instead of just finding different ways to, keep yourself filling time. So.
Well, I also think mentally that, wrestling's a long season, right? And less has become more, the years of 40 matches, national champion stuff is gone, right? Like all these kids are young men, sorry, but they're winning nationals at 17-0 and 21-1. But it's because it's such a grind. And so when you bring in something new, like, everybody knows how to shoot a head inside and head outside, but hey, here's a couple different ways to get there. If you struggle, here's a couple different ways to finish. You feel like that helps keep the guys fresher mentally in season, Coach?
No, for sure. I mean, the thing is keeping them excited, keeping them wanting to come to the room, continue to improve and get better. And that's the ultimate goal is just coming in the room every day, excited about being here, and just not going through the motions of, hey, this is just another workout, so.
We're good. Sorry.
So yeah, just like I said, just having them excited about coming to the room, and Brian's bringing in a lot of new stuff. We got a lot of Russian guys here that bring in a lot of new stuff. So I mean, it just guys are learning a lot of different stuff, which is good. Just not that, hey, this is your high crotch or this is your singlet and stuff. So
I say this tongue in cheek. A couple years ago, the big thing was the singlet, chest out in between periods to air yourself out. But I don't know how much of that was just we're doing something cooler and how much that actually helps.
I think it does. I think there is something like you got 30 seconds. Like, I think coaches negate that 30 seconds. They kind of overcoach sometimes, or like don't have a plan for it. And
I've been in enough corners to know that's right. Yeah.
I talked to a guy from Azerbaijan. He was the head coach for Azerbaijan now, Gazumov. He was one of the major coaches in Russia for a long time. He told me, I was like, what do you say in the corner? He did that singlet thing. And he explained like, hey, getting air to the inner core. And that's like, there was purpose behind it. So just something I latched on to.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely cool looking, but okay, so again, you travel extensively, and I know you have too, Coach, but you travel all the time. You're taking like Cannon and your son and anybody who's willing to jump in the plane or the van or whatever it is. How much is having those guys here in the room? Like, how much is it them training differently? Like, it feels like their feel is different, how they train, and like that has to go to their training. So like, what is, for those of us that only get to see it and we don't live it, like what's maybe, I mean, don't give away the secret sauce, but like what's kind of a cool thing or two that you've seen that?
I think it's two different aspects, like bringing like we have Kady Magomedov here right now. Ramazanov just left. So we're constantly looking to bring in new guys. And when they're here, it's more of like watch and see and feel, you know, our guys that are wrestling them, you know, when they're out, they're watching them, you know, you get that feeling. But when you take a group over there, and we've done it on purpose with a couple of our young guys, of like, it's a very simple life. Like, I think going over there, there is no like secret to their wrestling. Like, they don't do anything better than us. We don't really necessarily do. I think we do some things better than them in some aspects. But one thing that they have over there is it's a life. Like, wrestling is life. Like, it's. I'm not saying they put it above their faith or their family or anything like that, but they live very simply. They eat simple foods. Their bedtime is negotiated by how they want to compete and how serious they're taking wrestling. And, you know, I think getting them go over there, I think 3 weeks is like the sweet spot I found. Like, if I can get somebody in that system for 3 weeks, when they come back here, like in the mornings, they're going for morning walks, you know, and they're eating less processed foods because they felt their body, what it did after 3 weeks of, you know, pure food over there. So it's impacted them, and then it just bleeds out into our system. It's like that guy's roommate that we took over there, if we weren't able to take him or he wasn't able to go, it bleeds into his wrestling. You know, maybe we picked up some really good habits by bringing guys from there to here.
I saw your sign when I walked in. It says, "Good habits makes time your ally, and bad habits makes it your enemy." And
Yeah,
I'm going to take a picture and send that to my mom, because I think, you know, like, you know, if you go, you got to do 1 hour of homework and you have nothing to do all day. A lot of people end up doing it at 11 o'clock at night.
sure.
And if you got stuff all day, like I have to do it between 10:15 and 11:15 a.m. and you're driven, it feels like that's some of what you guys are saying you see over there.
Yeah, and like for me personally, it's just the thing that I've been kind of on the past like 6 months is, you know, and I think Coach Hunter's been the same way, is like, you can practice really hard at wrestling and get worse. That's like the worst part about it. It's like, if you're not doing things, if you're reinforcing bad habits with your single leg and you're not getting kind of exposed in drilling, you get to live and maybe it goes semi okay, but you're not, and every time you drill, you're drilling it kind of not perfect. Every time you're getting a bad rep. So you actually, you know, you could come in here and work super hard for 2 hours and end up in kind of a less advantageous position as far as winning big matches at the end
You're
of the year.
building bad muscle memory,
Bad
mentally
muscle,
and physically, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's just trying to do things exactly right for the finite amount of time that you're in. There's not a single rep loss that you can't say that didn't add to value in my wrestling.
How important is that when you take that kind of stuff? Like, you go, okay, we're only going to work for 45 minutes today. Like, to me, it feels like, you know, this is like the TikTok ADD generation. Like, it's almost better for like guys to have 2 45-minute practices than 1 90-minute practice. And even if it's a practice from 9 to 10 and 10 to 11, if they have a 15-minute break, it feels like they go better. How much of like stuff like, hey, making sure they're getting workouts in the morning so that when they go to it, I think our sport's weird. Like, you know, 90% of the season are duels. They're usually on a Sunday afternoon or a Friday night. And then the most important meets of the year start on Saturday morning or Friday morning or Thursday morning. Like, how that's got to be a challenge, right? Acclimating these guys to, you know, like if you get them ready for March, they're not getting ready for December, January, and February, which affects their seed. And if you get them ready for that, for the season, then you got to tweak their body it's the other direction. Like, it seems a little crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, like for us right now in the summertime, we're practicing at 10 o'clock. You know, so we practiced all, you know, throughout the summer at 10. But, you know, during the school year, most of our practice are at 3. So, I mean, it's just, you know, getting the guys used to it. I mean, we'll do some in the morning and stuff. A lot of the stuff we do in the morning is just individually stuff. We'll bring them in and, you know, put them through some individual stuff, you know, whether it's going to be conditioning, stance and motion, you know, sometimes just wrestling, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's usually how we kind of, you know, get them ready for at the end of the year and stuff. We start doing a lot more stuff in the morning, you know, before, between classes and stuff.
Yeah. And I think having Hunter be the assistant for as long as he was doing that with individuals throughout his entire coaching.
I heard all day.
Very expert, very expertly. So I think he automatically gravitates towards that, like, you know, best practice as far as like the full year, because the year hasn't changed. I mean, if it does at some point, they talked about having a dual team part and when that changes, he may have to, kind of adapt. But the one thing he's really good at is negotiating the season. I thought he did a great job with it last year. I think, and I saw just years of experience come out when he would talk about, hey, we need to change this a little bit, get ready
and on
for
the
this
fly.
or whatever. On the fly,
Without-
because he wasn't expected to be in the position. So I think just having him have that voice, it's going to be huge for our program moving forward, of like having that expertise of learned experience instead of, theoretical, this is what we should be doing. It worked really well in 2002 or whenever. This worked really well. Then we did this next year. He's got all those years of data points that he could point to kind of real world. And wrestling doesn't change as much as we say it does. Like there's wrestling less matches, but the guy that finishes a single leg and defends a single leg, gets off bottom and rides for 30 seconds, usually wins the match.
It's the how of that.
It's the how. And there's a best practice there. And he's got tons of years where it went like this, and he can pick and choose from those moments to give us the best chance to be successful.
Like there's a picture of Jesse Delgado up here, and I remember like somebody was like, well, he wouldn't have won 5 years later because you weren't allowed to drop down to an ankle. I dropped down to an ankle or leg pass, and I'm like, the best guys always win. They figure out a way. Like they coach to the rule. You wrestle to the rules.
Jesse would have figured out whatever situation.
You would have helped him figure it out too.
He would have figured it out, So Jesse would have won it. It didn't matter what era he was in. He was going to win. He was just a great competitor that loved to compete and just change wrestling a little bit.
To use my dad's quote, that's sour grapes.
It's an easy thing to say. Like,
of course.
And now, and we're in the age of information, so like people forget the greats that came through our sport prior to maybe a certain wrestling media site that kind of like has brought up wrestling, but they brought up wrestling when it happened. So there's tons of good that was done before. There's great minds that were in the mat. Like best coaches I've met are the old heads that no one really listens to very much anymore, because you think, oh yeah, they don't know what they're talking about. But if you sit there and listen to them, there's jewels there.
I met the guy that was in charge of the UFC wrestling promotion, and I think he thought Bo Nickel invented wrestling.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's like Randy Couture and Daniel Cormier and Matt Hughes, and like we all know these guys, and we're all friends with these guys. And I'm like, I want to switch gears a little bit. We were talking a little bit off, just offline, Coach. How the game, the NIL game, the revenue share game, basically the money game. I had Dresser on a week ago, and he was explaining like what's the legal money and the illegal money, and whether people like Kevin Dresser or not, he's a pretty transparent guy, and we'll kind of call it what it is. How you guys seem like the kind of guys that would be happy to go back to 9.9, and nobody's getting money under the table, and you actually have to develop some guys. You can't just recruit a team full of superstars. Having said, maybe that's what you'd like. That's not the world we're living in, and you guys are also realists. And so what's that adjustment then like? Because you have to raise money and you have to do these things,
No, I mean, it's college athletics has changed. It's all about, raising money for NIL and, keeping your own guys. That's, you work hard enough to recruit them and develop them and that kind of stuff. Now you want to make sure you can keep them here, so I feel like that's, that's my job right now, is going out and raising money and doing a good job of, just making these guys, wanting to be here and stay here. And like I said, that's just part of the sport right now. So
how much is culture a part of that too, though, right? Because culture becomes like, I'm a big believer in the good enough theory. And like, I know your wrestling room here wasn't built yesterday, but to me, well, first of all, this is the Taj Mahal comparison to Merrimack where we were at. But you got plenty of mat space. Somebody else has a bigger room. Somebody has a smaller room. I'm a big believer in the good enough theory. And I think that applies to relationships too, right? Like no two people are perfect pairs for each other in a marriage or coaching or whatever. But you're like, hey, I'm going to a great academic institution. I'm in the major I want. I have the support. I have a meal plan. I know what it's like to eat real food and not processed food. And these And probably the most important one is I think these guys care about me, even if I don't win every match, which I think is immensely important. I was talking to another coach last night about that. It feels like that should outweigh a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
How much is that a battle?
For us, like we haven't had a starter leave. We haven't had an RTC guy leave. I mean, since we've been here. So it's been easy for us to invest all of ourselves in time and resources and just emotionally build an attachment with them, because we've never really had that problem where we've been stung where a kid we put a lot into. And I feel for those coaches that happens to. But I think that speaks to, not us as much as it does the culture of the program. I think that these guys are all close enough, and like you see them gel in ways that, like, I'm not saying every program is different, but I can say this, that it's special here. And the fact that, like, once these guys become teammates, they'll wrestle a non-ideal weight for it, unselfishly give one of their good friends the spot and them sacrifice for them without us asking, without us bringing it to them. They love each other in a way that, like, that's uncommon. And in today's society where it's me, and give me. I mean, and I think it's something Coach Huff and Coach Johnson before, I was here, first couple of years with Coach Huff, but Coach Johnson, it seems like that's something they instilled through Poeta into Hunter that just hasn't really left. And, it's fun to go to work knowing that kid that you're going to coach is your guy. It's not somebody that's like some sort of, I don't know what gun for hire type person.
Yeah, no mercenaries. Yeah, you guys seem like two of the, I don't care who gets the credit guys in the country. And there's other people that, we all know guys that do nothing and take credit for everything, in every walk of life, So it feels very different. So I was thinking about this question, and I can't decide who I think I'm going to ask you first, okay? I watched Bryan Medlin coach his son for a long time. I think he's done an amazing job, okay? He's done an amazing job. And I remember when Wyatt was 12, I'm lucky enough if I call Medlin, he answers. And he's like, I don't really care if he's the best 12-year-old in America. I care that he's having fun, that he's learning the right skills, and he's learning how to be a good young man and the traits of being a good wrestler. And then as it gets older and the meets are more meaningful, and now we're on the cusp of college. You who watch this from forever, and you guys, you can tell are great friends. What's that been like to watch?
No, I think it's been great. I mean, there's when you look at, father-son kind of relationship a lot, there's in this sport, I mean, it seems like there's a lot of them that are overbearing. They're just on top of their kid all the time. They want him to be the best. Bryan's kind of stepped back and kind of just let him learn at his own, own progress, and it just seems like, Wyatt truly loves the sport. And that's what it's all about. You got to love the sport when you get to college, because that's when it really gets hard.
It's hard.
It's hard. Everything's hard. So
yeah,
he continued to get better. He continued to improve each year. And he's at a position now where he loves wrestling, and he's going to love wrestling for the next, 8-10 years, however long he decides he's going to continue to compete. But, I think he's done an amazing job of raising him, but he kind of let him go and do his own way, like not just say, hey, this is how we're going to do it. So.
Yeah, I had a ton of resources. Like Hunter, I would be like, hey, could you work with him on this? Where sometimes, like, I feel like he made me a better coach, to be honest. Like, I knew I didn't want him to wrestle in grade school, so he didn't really start competing till high school. And like at that point, I feel like from there to now, like even now, I can still remember, the early days of how many mistakes that I felt like I made, in that process. And, in looking at his career so far, like, it shows like how, I didn't have much to do with it. It was Zane Richards, and it was Isaiah Martinez, and it was Jeremy Hunter. It wasn't me, but I was able to put these great role models of great human beings in his life, and they ended up kind of raising the bar for him. So yeah, I'm excited to see how it plays out. And, I just wanted to, heard like some parents that I respect a lot. It's like when you're watching your kid wrestle, like you just want them to know that you love them. you know, and I know that that seems like a simple statement. It's like, he just got done wrestling at Fargo, and it's like, I don't want him to ever feel like that his result is based, my love is going to be based on that result, which is a hard thing to do, because if you're, you know, you have a kid that's wrestling and a single leg is wrong and it's not your son, you could be like, hey, put your, you know, your arm here, you're doing this a little bit wrong, like do it, fix it. And he doesn't hear what Wyatt hears sometimes, which is like, well, Dad thinks I'm doing it wrong. Like, and he misses the whole first part of the explanation. So it's easy, and it's very great that I have Austin O'Connor and Schultz and Coach Hunter, because I could be like, hey, go show him that.
Yeah. You made a comment that reminded me a lot of my dad when he said, he would say the same thing about whatever success I had. He's like, you know, I just let him go and put him around a bunch of people. And I love you, Medlin, but you're lying. Like, you coach them a bunch too, you know, like, and you get credit for being friends with Jeremy Hunter and being friends with Austin O'Connor and all these people. It's all like, I told my girlfriend, like, I learned wrestling from my dad, and all these people that I know all started because of my last name, and it wasn't bad in the world of wrestling.
Yeah.
You know, and like you get a foot in the door, and then you have to do your thing after that. But you know, and Wyatt's doing that, right? Like, you know, and it's different in an actual match. Like, you don't start with a 2-point head start or 2 points behind because of who your mom or dad are. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was just saying more of like, you know, I've coached Cannon longer than I've coached Wyatt, but our relationship, like my relationship with Wyatt has to be, my coaching relationship has to be different than it is with Cannon. Cannon's completely different. I could be honest with him in ways that I have to have another buffer there to be a little more honest in those moments. But
you can yell at Cannon and he can still go talk to Matt after.
Exactly. Coach Medlin's a jerk.
They can agree that you were mean to him. Yeah. You know, they can love you and hate you in that moment. Exactly. So yeah, that's a big difference. Yeah, it's interesting. I guess some of the last things, like, we just came back from Fargo. Illinois did unbelievably good in greco, really did pretty good in freestyle. I'm sure you're like everybody else. I talked to the guy from Pennsylvania and they're upset. So you're like, everybody's upset. Nobody's ever happy in our sport, which is interesting. How important is it for you guys? I've always felt like if all the best kids from certain states stayed at home, there are certain states that always be top 10 states. Like if you had the right coaches developing them, right? But it feels like, you know, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, if there was a state university in California that, you know, didn't have Stanford's academic restrictions. You know, like Missouri's done a pretty good job of keeping kids at home, but I don't think they're as good high school wise. And my Missouri people get mad at me, but it is what it is. How important is it for you guys to make Illinois the place that Illinois kids want to go? And how, like, what's a way or two of doing that you guys are going to sort of change, maybe that hasn't been that, like, on the banner going, you know, in the past couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's huge. I mean, you know, we want the top kids from our state to stay in state. You know, representing the university. You know, the ways we're gonna have to do it is to be honest with you, we have to win more. You know, we have to make this place a place where they know they can come and they can achieve all their goals. You know, so we need to, you know, we need to get up there where you're competing for a team trophy every year. You know. And, you know, we've been close. You know, we've been in a situation where we're usually in that, you know, 9 to 15 range, somewhere in there. You know, but we need to make that next jump, you know. But you know, like you're saying, it comes down to there's a lot of great wrestlers that come from this state, and we have to do a better job of keeping them here.
We got a great, this class since I've been here is 2017. This is the best Illinois class that we've had, from Jackson Penovich, Aaron Stewart, Royce, Wyatt, Griff Powell. Like, there's a lot of legacy guys, and there's a lot of guys that, like, when I first took over, I coached a schoolboy team in Indiana, and it had most of these guys on it. And I came back and told us, I'm like, never really coached schoolboys before, so there's no data here, but that's a solid group of kids.
It's one of the best.
Ended up winning greco, I think, taking second or third in freestyle. And it was like they were coachable and they were good. So I feel like we plucked some of the best kids from that. And now it's our job to develop them as people, develop them as athletes, develop them, and then it sells itself. You know, then it's more of, you know, that becomes the place that, you know, Aaron Stewart won his national title. That's where I want to go. You know, I think that, you know, when there was a time, and I was coaching in Illinois at the time, it was kind of like these guys are recruiting out of state. Like no offense, you were here, but like, you know, you'd have 2 or 3 guys, but then they would get the superstar from California, the superstar from Oregon. But I think since Hunter's been here, and really since Pawetta's been here, it's been like, we want the best Illinois kids. And I don't think that was really said, you know, when certain other coaches were here, it was like they just wanted a kid at that. And if, you know,
It sets a pattern, right?
Over.
Like if the number 3 guys ranked from Illinois and the number 5 guys ranked from Wyoming, and you go hard on the 5 guy or the 3 guy from Wyoming, you're like, you couldn't have just taken the guy down the street and developed him a little bit. Yeah. Coach, I know you got to go get to a meeting. I appreciate, I got a timer. I made sure you're good.
Yep.
I appreciate you guys taking time. I hope this will turn out great. This was fun to do. You guys are the best. I appreciate the invite up here. And
we'll do one tomorrow after your golf.
We'll do, yeah. The hat will be backwards.
We'll recap your golf.
One flap of the guy. Midland will be interviewing me. I'm like, there's a +7 and it was
Ish.
Ish. Thank you guys.
Thank you.